Firing season continues in the WNBA as Mike Thibault and his son Eric Thibault are gone from the Washington Mystics. Mike being the GM and Eric the coach. We are going to go into details on this firing, or firings, should I say, and was it caused by them winning too much? Before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please give the video a like and consider subscribing to the channel. All right, let's get into this. Now, if you're not aware, the Washington Mystics come under the brand of Monumental Sports. The CEO and founder is Ted Leonsis, and there are 8 sport teams under this umbrella, including 3 basketball teams: the Washington Wizards from the NBA, the Washington Mystics from the WNBA, and the Capital City Go-Go that are a G League team. Michael Winger was hired in May of 2023 to run the basketball operations of the 3 teams they have under that umbrella. And Winger released the following statement to announce the firing of Eric and Mike Thibault, saying, "After extensive reflection and conversation, we have decided we are at the point in our competitive and evolutionary cycle to turn the team over to new leadership with a renewed vision to carve out our path into the future of WNBA basketball." Alexis Philippou did an article for ESPN, and she quotes sources close to the situation, saying their vision, father and son's vision for the franchise future, and that of upper management were not aligned. And then it goes on to say that Thibault's, Eric, and Mike, they wanted to go and get free agents, and it sounds like management wants to do the full-on rebuild, get young players, and go in that direction. If you look at Winger's bios, he's come up through the NBA, a part of rebuilds with Cleveland, Oklahoma, and the LA Clippers, and it sounds like he's interested now in getting involved with the Mystics, as prior to that he was more focused on the Washington Wizards. And really, if this was Winger's plan, then he's a little bit late to this party, as he really should have gone after the Thibaults, Mike and Eric, during the season and fired them early on to complete the tank, especially late in the season when they started winning, because if they're truly wanting to tank and get good players, well, it's a bit late now, because the winning they did at the end of the season, where they could have had potentially much higher odds, they now have the worst odds of landing the number 1 pick, and presumably Paige Bueckers at 10%. And I've got to say, overall, I'm a bit torn on this firing. So I would hesitate to get rid of Mike Thibault, and I guess it comes with a package deal with his son Eric Thibault. And that might be one of the reasons that Mike Thibault is gone, because it's a weird relationship when Mike is the general manager and his son is the coach. And obviously, when do you fire the coach? And as we've seen already, WNBA coaches, they are often the fall person for a bad season and have to suffer the consequences when a rebuild is done. And I imagine Mike wasn't real keen to fire his son. But getting rid of Mike Thibault really hurts the Mystics, as he's a good basketball mind. He leads the WNBA in career wins with 379. He's been with the organization since 2013. He took them to the finals in 2018 and 2019, winning the championship in 2019. And even this year, when they were going to rebuild because Elena Deladon decided she didn't want to play, and they played a bit of brinksmanship, I would say, he still put together a good roster that was competitive to the very end of the season, and they almost made the playoffs. And I wonder if indeed that is why they've been fired, because the success they had at the end of the season really ruined their lottery odds. Like, they still have a 10% chance of getting Paige Bueckers, but really the game plan was to get another core player, and by doing that, yeah, it just doomed the organization for just a few wins doesn't help them, because what they're aiming to do is get young players. Then after the collective bargaining agreement, the offseason of 25-26, that's the offseason where everybody's going to it'll be loaded with free agents. And if you have a young core, then you can build with those free agents. And that's really what they should have been doing. And they sort of half did it. Like, it was almost half being pregnant. They didn't return Deladon. Because they cored Deladon, Natasha Cloud was allowed to walk to the Mercury, and then they were in a rebuild, and Mike Thibault was honest with that, but then they didn't hold to the plan, because at the end of the season, the Mystics started winning, and they've sort of messed up their rebuild. And you can talk all you want that, oh, they were building a culture and everything else. Well, now you're gone. And the unanswerable question that I doubt anybody will answer, if they would have tanked better and given themselves the best odds to get Paige Bueckers, would they still be around? I would say yes, as I think you could sell that future. Hey, if they would have gotten Paige Bueckers with the best odds, we've got Aaliyah Edwards, Paige Bueckers, two cores to build around. When the 25-26 offseason arrives, we will fill it with more talent, and we are on our way. But now their direction is very unclear, as they have a lot of nice pieces with Edwards, Inksler, and Adkins, but they just need that one other player to sort of really give them a core player or face of the franchise, and they just totally blew that. And I think Mike and Eric ultimately lost their jobs based on failing to tank properly. Not to mention the dynamic of Mike being the GM and the father of the coach, Eric, is just, it was always a weird dynamic and was likely always doomed to failure in my mind. But then maybe I am overreacting to nepotism. Now, the hire that Michael Winger makes will be interesting. Because he has the NBA background, will he be like Nick Urin, who went to the G League and former NBA assistant and hired Nate Tibbetts? Will that be the same way with Winger? Will he sort of tap in and get a front office guy from the NBA, and they'll use their connections to get a G League coach? And is that going to be the direction of the WNBA going forward? Yes, if you're a G League guy, go to the WNBA. It's a way now you can get paid more because they're starting to pay their coaches more, and it's a way to work your way up the ladder. Also interesting to think about is the future of Eric and Mike. I assume Mike will retire. I don't think he would be seeking another GM job and looking to move, but you never know. I don't know if they come as a package deal. If Greg Bibb is true to his word, would Greg Bibb of Dallas get Mike and Eric to come in and be a coaching GM duo? It would be interesting. I think that would make Dallas make much more effective and smarter basketball decisions, because I would definitely trust their acumen over that of Greg Bibb. And we'll finish with this. Was it a good move by management to fire Mike Thibault? It could be argued either way, because you don't have to do a full-on tank to get back into the finals. Look at the Minnesota Lynx. Cheryl Reeve, she drafted Collier in 2019, made smart free agent acquisitions with Alana Smith and Courtney Williams, and they were a referee call away from winning the championship. And Mike Thibault is that sort of GM that can identify talent. So for me, it depends on the hire they make. If they find somebody, and obviously time will tell, but I would have been very hesitant firing these two, as I think they might have, even though they messed up the tank, I would have been more inclined to stick with Mike and Thibault and see how they could build that roster going into the 25-26 offseason and then building from there. Now it's over to you. Did Mike and Eric Thibault deserve to be fired? Your thoughts, your comments, it's all welcome. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a good night.